Welcome to Building Fortunes Radio. Make sure you check us out at buildingfortunesradio.com. Along with KISK, our Keep It Simple Circle marketing partners, we are here to help our Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio customers build their businesses and make the world a better place. At Building Fortunes Radio, we know how much your business means to you and the people important to you. So join us to make the world a better place. Spread the word, tell a friend, and go make a difference in your world. Now on to our show with your host, Peter Mingils. Take it away, Peter.
Hello, everyone. Peter Mingils here. You are listening to us on Building Fortunes Radio. This is a Wednesday night. For me, it's a Thursday morning for Mr. Ray Gebauer. We are here in Florida on a Wednesday night, and Ray is in Thailand on a Thursday morning. It's actually about 12-hour separation in time, so he's in the future, and we do this radio show every week at this time for your listening enjoyment and education purposes, where Ray's been super successful in a lot of different things, home-based businesses. He's a successful author, super knowledgeable about health, nutrition, and philosophy, business building, and a whole bunch of other things. And I called him up one day and I asked him to do some radio shows with us, and it turned into a weekly radio show where he'll go over an acronym. He'll pick a word or make up a word, and he learns through acronyms, and so do I as well. And he picks an acronym, and we'll do 3 separate radio shows on each letter of the acronym. And we've done all different kinds. When we first started, we would do like a letter of the alphabet, and we went A through Z, I think like 3 times, and then we did, I think we did it like 3 times. And then we did double A's, and I think we went through that as well. And then he started picking some words, and right now we're on the word FIRE, F-I-R-E, and we've done all of the F's, so there's 3 F's, 1 of the I's, so we're on the second I, and then, of course, we have some other ones as well, so we're almost about halfway through, and it's always a pleasure for us to have Ray here. Now, I just kind of share with you, you probably want to listen in, maybe take notes, or if you want to go back to the website, you'll be able to find it on Building Fortunes Radio. You go find the Ray Gebauer ones, look for the second I in FIRE if you want to hear this one again. But you'll probably miss some, so you want to listen to it again. And you'll certainly want to share some, and you want to apply some, because what's the point? If you're not applying the stuff that you're learning, it's kind of a limited effect. So the reason why I say you might want to listen again, he's going to say something that's going to get your mind spinning, and you're going to be thinking about whatever he just said, and you're going to miss the next 5 sentences. So that's why you might want to listen again, because you bring a new you every time you come in and listen in. And I'm going to say thanks again to Mr. Ray Gebauer for being here, and I'm going to turn it over as we get started. So, Mr. Ray Gebauer, thanks for being here on your own radio show.
Well, thank you, Peter. I appreciate you and the opportunity to have this opening to speak and share and make a difference. And that's why we do these shows, both of us, because we believe that certain information and concepts can make a meaningful difference in someone's life. A lot of people just like they're on a downhill slide and just going down and just they're like worn out or like emotionally dead or just in despair or depression. And sometimes you need someone to come along with a good idea that like it's like a spark and like lights them up again. Oh, okay. Let's give this another go. So I think you'll find a couple of gold nuggets. And this show last week was really good. I think all the shows are pretty good. So this morning I identified a word that starts with I. And but before we jump into it, just for fun and games, it's always fun to ask Peter, what do you think the word's going to be today, Peter? What's your best guess?
I am not sure, but I'm going to guess one of my favorite words relative to I and life in general is interfere. So leaders or people that make things happen, they get in the way. They interfere or interrupt. So I'm going to do a dual word. I'll go double words today. I won't play by your rules. I'll try 2 guesses. Interfere or interrupt, which is basically a little bit of the same thing.
Yeah, very similar, yeah. Okay, lately it's been fun. I give you a clue. Often I'll say the word before we start
I don't listen to your clues. I'm too busy trying to guess before the radio show. I don't have time to listen to your. You can't make me think and do this at the same time.
Okay, well, it's up to you. Just pay attention. It's sort of fun to give you a clue and see if you catch it. Well, let me start with a couple stories. Okay. I vividly remember in 1975, I was in a bus late at night with, 8 or 10 other college students. This is my first year of college at Grace Bible College. And we're driving. I was in a singing group, and we were driving to someplace. I think we're driving to New York, different states, to do concerts. And I was up in the front seat, and the president of the company, or the college, was there. I think he was the driver. And we were talking a little bit. And he's also a psychologist, PhD in psychology. He asked me a question. He said, he asked me, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he asked me about my feelings. And I remember, I was stumped, what's he talking about? Feelings? And so I told him, I realized, I guess this is a missing piece in my thinking. I didn't really understand what he was talking about. My feelings, I'm a super intellectual. I'm on the quest for knowledge and truth, and feelings. Well, who cares about feelings? What's important is the facts. Forget the feelings. It's the facts. The information. But at the time, I was sort of surprised and why is this even important? I was so clueless at that time. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah, I finally figured it out. And then I remember another time, so this must have been in the late 90s, I was in a Mastery of Coaching program for Mike Smith. And there was, I think, 12 of us, and we would meet every 3 months for 3 days in either Florida or Atlanta, Georgia. I was in Washington, so I had to travel, but it was really good. I was learning a lot, and we just would have in-depth conversations. It was sort of not really structured, and it was pretty confrontational, which was, actually good. I remember one day, along that line, I got confronted. And I guess I was in denial, or I just didn't see it. But people, I guess it was my turn, because they would do this to everybody. It sort of feels like an attack, a loving attack. And they were telling me, at the time I was having great success with the company. I was making a lot of money, and I was a leader, one of the top earners in the company. And, they knew that. But they, Gebauer, you're sort of arrogant. And I had pride in the fact that I was humble. I said, no, I'm not. I don't believe in being arrogant. I'm pretty humble, I said, no, you just don't see this, a blind spot. And everybody in the group agreed. So it was 12 against 1. And I thought, well, maybe they're right. Maybe it is a blind spot. And sure enough, they were right. So I'm not sure how much of it was their perception of how I was expressing myself, or how much it was actually just arrogance. Probably both. But it was eye-opening, and it was sort of life-shifting for me, because they identified something that I didn't see. It's like Dr. Dean, the president of the college, he was able to identify something I didn't see. And that's the main reason I enrolled in this Mastery of Coaching program. Was over one sentence. It was probably a 20-minute conversation with Mike's wife, who enrolled me in this. I had paid $25,000, best investment ever made. But the line that got me was initially, I said, no, $25,000, you got to be kidding me. The way it's presented, I thought it was for free. But the line that hooked me was, well, you don't know what you don't know. And I couldn't argue with that. I thought, well, there's a good possibility I might get some real value out of this, and I just don't know what it could be. So I finally said yes. So those two little stories to introduce the word for today is identify. So I like to keep it down to 3 points. So here's 3 things that I think are really, really important that can enrich your life. We all want the same thing. We want to have a better life. I always say that because I think it's so important. Like Stephen Covey said, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Well, that is the main thing. We just don't always think about having a better life. So sometimes we need reminders. Sometimes I need reminders. So 3 things I think are really important to identify. Number 1, and maybe not in this order, but this is a good place to start. Identifying your core values. I remember maybe 30 years ago I did that. I made a list of my core values, and I still have that sheet. It was like 50 different core values. So maybe that's overkill. But I have boiled down to 4. So why is it important to identify your core values? Because you already have values, and that's what runs your life. But often we're not aware of them. They're running your life behind the scenes. You're not conscious of your values, but they are running your life. Because we are always, and let me say this. Do you know someone who's not consistent with their values? Well, actually not. Everyone is 100% consistent with their values. It may not appear that way, but they are. So a couple questions. Are you consistent with your core values? Well, probably not. Most people aren't. But why? Why not? And I figured out, I think the reason is, it's because we have other values that conflict. Like a guy has a happy marriage, and he's faithful, but he meets somebody at the office, he gets intrigued, he gets entangled, and he ends up having an affair. And it could end up ruining his whole family and his life. It went against his core values. So why did he do it? Well, that was sort of stupid. Well, because he also had another value that he needed to feel appreciated and respected, and he's getting a lot of that from this other woman. So in the moment, those values, the feelings, I should say, about those values were stronger than the feelings about being faithful. So he made a big mistake. So that's the reason we're not consistent with what we say are our core values, because we have other values that don't line up with our core values, but we go with whatever value at the moment we have the strongest feelings about. So ultimately, it's not the logic, it's the feelings that make the decision. That's why we have to have the right thinking, so we have the right feelings that don't take us over the cliff. So, in my opinion, the foundational core values that will enrich your life and empower you more than anything else and keep you on the straight and narrow path and just to have a better life, to be happier and healthier. I always come back to this, like Stephen Covey said, I just quoted, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So for me, the foundation, the core values are the 4 dimensions of love, or the 4 C's. C as in cat. 4 C's of love. As opposed to love just being a feeling, which feelings come and go, and they're important. They're like a signal or a message, but you got to have a firm foundation. Like the story of the 3 pigs. They each build a house, but one built it with straw, one with wood, sticks and twigs, other one with bricks. So what happened? Didn't work out so well for the first two pigs, right? So you're going to have a good foundation, a good strong house, especially your foundation. It doesn't matter how nice the house is that you build, your life, it's your foundation that makes the biggest difference. So the 4 dimensions of love, I say this on pretty much every show, are loving, it's based on the greatest commandment in the Bible, to love God and others with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. With all of our heart, that's the caring, that's the first letter, first word starts with C. It's the caring, loving with all our soul, that's the connecting, loving with all of our mind, that's the commitment, committing, loving with all of our strength or might, that's the action, the creating value. So caring, connecting, committing, creating value. So those are, I think, the foundational core values on which we want to build everything else. So if we pay attention to those core values, those foundational, those fundamental values, then everything works better in life. Okay, number 2, not only identify your core values and make sure you have a good foundation, but you also want to identify what's missing. What's missing for you to have a better life? Sometimes life is great and sometimes it's terrible, right? And usually we get back to having a good life, but sometimes, we're in a bad place for a long time and we make mistakes. We all want to have a better life in different respects. We want to have a better life in terms of being happier, having better health, having more wealth. Of course, the greatest wealth is your health, your physical health, your mental health, your social health. Maybe what's missing for you is having the skills that you need to build a bigger, better business and have more income. Maybe what's missing for you is lack of motivation. Or what's missing, you're not on the right path. You're not with really the right company or the right people. So when you're missing something that's critical, you're basically stuck until you identify what's missing. So you can do something about it. Now, identifying it is not going to help unless you actually do something about it. But you can't do anything about what's missing if you don't know what's missing. So it's worth your time to invest time into thinking, reflecting, okay, what's missing in my life that if it wasn't missing, I would have a better life. So just as one example, when we talk about business or health or marriage, I like to talk about health because it's pretty foundational, and I am a holistic health doctor and author of 12 books on health, so I know a little bit about living better and living longer. But most people, it reminds me of the verse Solomon wrote 3,000 years ago. He said, don't be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Most people die before their time with some stupid disease that they didn't need to have. 80% of the people have diabetes. Half the people get cancer. My former wife, married in 1985, I think, she just died last week of cancer. And 50,000 people die every day from either cancer or heart disease. Why? Because what's missing for them is a healthy lifestyle. So when you're not serious about your health, and I like this phrase a lot, remember this, when you're too casual, you'll become a casualty. Whether that's in the context of driving your car or a motorcycle or with your finances or with your health. And that includes your mental and emotional health, your physical health, even your financial health. When you're too casual, you become a casualty. So some people, they just are relying on the wrong information. If you want to persuade somebody, one of the tools we use is social proof. Well, look at all these other people. Look at their stories. Look at their success. And that influences us. And it should to some extent. But you can get faked out with social proof because you look around, everyone else is eating junk food. Most people are staying up too late, not getting enough sleep, not enough sunshine. You go into the store and you see thousands of items and you think, well, these things can't be that bad because people are buying them. The FDA must have approved them. So we assume that they're safe and okay. Just like they lied to us about getting the jab, the poison shot. Well, for 20 million people, it was the death shot. Killed 20 million people at least. But why do people go for that? Because of social proof. If so many people are doing this, it can't be wrong, but it can't all be wrong. Well, yeah, it's called mass delusion. People think of Nazi Germany. Why did all those good people get faked out and go with Nazism? Why are the people in this country, in America, faked out and they're leaning towards socialism, which doesn't end well ever. But they're lied to and they're misled, and if all their friends are Democrats and say, oh yeah, this and that, it's easy to be influenced by other people. So if you want to live longer, you don't want to be too casual. You've got to take things seriously. Just last night I came across a video that I've seen a few times before, even years ago, on TED Talk. And this lady's talking about what are the major factors in how long you live and how much does each factor influence your longevity. And there was a list of like 15 factors, maybe 20. Nutrition and exercise and different things. And I think some of the information was outdated. But the key point I want to make is the number one factor that made the biggest difference in how long people lived was social connectivity. How much are you interacting with people, both on a casual basis, like even with strangers, just having a short conversation, as well with your friends and your spouse and your children. So frequency matters. How often are you talking to other people? How often are you engaged? In cultures where a lot more people live to age 100, and there's a much, much higher degree of social engagement and interaction, whereas now this wonderful technology like cell phones basically is really hurting us in some ways because it interferes with and disrupts, Peter, our social connectivity. It isolates us, and we're settling for like a counterfeit or at least a much lower grade value because there's no substitute for live interaction with people. So that's one of the factors for longevity, along with getting enough sleep, enough sunshine, good nutrition, exercise. So the main point is you got to identify what is missing for you to have a better life in terms of your health, in terms of your wealth, your spiritual life. What's missing? In terms of your spiritual health, maybe you're not praying enough. Maybe you're not reading the Bible enough. Maybe you're not interacting with people in that arena. Okay, so the first point was identify your core values. Identify what's missing for you. That's number 2, to have a better life. And number 3, excuse me. This is so important, and for most of my life, I didn't realize this. I kept hearing about it, and I just didn't really take it seriously. And I almost made this the number 1 point, but it ended up being number 3 here. So, and I do this at least twice a day, probably several times a day, but especially at night. That's the most important time to do this, to identify what I'm going to tell you, and also in the morning. And then when you're stressed during the day, which, that's happened with me quite a bit the last few weeks. And I feel stuck. The way out, like a deep, dark hole. How do you get out? Well, here's the fastest way to get out of the hole. I'm feeling down or depressed or discouraged. And reduce your stress and empower yourself by simply identifying what you are grateful for. So this is a routine that I do every night. I think it's really, really, really important. Your last thoughts shouldn't be about the news or your problems. It needs to be, what are you thankful for? And the way I do it, I call it time travel. I go through the 3 major time zones, past, present, and future. And I do it in using one of my acronyms that I created for myself, years ago, the TRAIL acronym, TRAIL, which is like the 5 short prayers that are most important. T stands for being thankful. R is like renewing my mind. A is awesome, God, you're awesome. I is intervention, asking God to help me intervene. And L is love, loving God, loving others. But the T, that's thankful. So I do this every night. I start with my earliest memories, back when I was a child. Particularly when I was in grade school. And I think about, I had a couple paper routes and how much I enjoyed that. You're going to camp and picking strawberries and raspberries in the summer and going down the river and fishing and all these nice, good memories. And I'm thankful for what happened, for what I experienced. And I identified like 12 periods of my life, 2 of which were really negative, but 10 of them are really positive. So then I think about high school. And, I used to focus on the negative parts of my life, because I didn't have a good childhood in terms of the family. There was physical abuse and stepfather. But once I started thinking about gratitude, I realized I had an extraordinary, amazing 4 years in high school. So many great experiences. I was on the top level singing group. I was on the wrestling team. I learned speed reading. I was physics student of the year. I like physics. I still do. I read about it every day. I upgraded my being a student from just getting B's and C's to getting straight A's. Just flipped the switch, and I was a chess champion in high school. I was top board. So I had a lot of great experiences in high school. Then I think about later in my life, my success with Magitech, where it made $10 million. I had almost 1 million people in my downline. That was like one of the leaders in the company until they stole my business. I lost everything. But I had a good run for 14 years, So I was really grateful for all the great experiences I had there. Then I switched to, so what am I grateful for right now? Well, I have some challenges right now, but you got to focus on what am I grateful for, not what's missing. You got to focus on what's missing a little bit, but you want to focus primarily on what's going for you, what's in your favor right now. So what's going for me right now? I've been around for 74 years, so I've accumulated a lot of knowledge, which of course is useless if you slip into arrogance and if you don't use it. But, so I have a considerable amount of wisdom and experience and maturity. I got good health for age 74. I practice a lot of different things. I practice what I preach, like I hold my breath every day, usually for 3 minutes. I held my breath for 3 minutes yesterday. Sometimes it's only 2.5 minutes. But, that's one of my health practices. I do whole body vibration. I do acupuncture points and, other stress reduction techniques. Because I take my health seriously. I don't too casually become a casualty. So I have a lot of good things going for me right now. And so I'm grateful for that. So then I think about the future. What am I grateful for that hasn't happened yet? what in the future, what possibilities in the future that are a possibility that maybe could happen, I can make happen. So you want to be grateful for, this is using faith, of course. This is your imagination. Faith is positive expectation. I think it's important to generate the feeling of grateful for being thankful and grateful for things that haven't happened yet. Like when you write down your goals. Well, the goals haven't happened yet. It's just like an idea. It's a plan. But when you have goals and think about them and you take them seriously, it empowers you. You feel better. You feel more confident. So you want to travel to the future in your imagination and consider possibilities that would really make you happy and feel good and be grateful for those things before they've happened. They may never happen, but they're much more likely to happen if you visualize them and have positive expectation and you're grateful for those things before they've even come into existence. And one of the two most important words you can say, which I do every day, I probably say this 20, 30, maybe 50 times a day, depending on the day, especially when I'm in some kind of challenge, I say the words, thank you. I'm basically talking to God. Thank you. I'm not so happy right now, but God, thank you for all the other blessings. Thank you. And sometimes I'll say it like 10 times right in a row, out loud. You say things out loud, it has more of an impact. So saying thank you out loud to yourself and thank you to others and expressing appreciation, that also benefits you and it benefits them. So those are my thoughts for today based on the word identify. Identifying, just a quick review, your core values, particularly the foundational ones, the 4 dimensions of love. Number 2, identify what's missing for you to have a better life in different arenas, your health and business and whatever else. And I think health needs to be one of the top priorities. And number 3, identify what you're thankful for every day. Just like you may go on a vacation once a year, once every 5 years, but every day you do certain things. You brush your teeth probably every day. You go to sleep every day. Eat food every day. Use the bathroom every day. There's certain things you do every day that we need to do. Drink water every day. Well, be grateful every day because that empowers you. You live longer. You're more optimistic. You're more confident. You're happier when we practice being thankful, particularly make it part of your routine, just like brushing your teeth, especially right before you go to sleep and first thing in the morning, and throughout the day as much as possible. Okay, I think I may have gone over time, but I think this is all really, really important.
Good stuff. Identify. That's a good I word.
Yeah, this is so important for me, and I think it's really important for you as a listener. And I like to say, if you care, you share. So if you see value in this for yourself, there'll be value in it for other people. So do other people a big favor and share this with them. All the radio shows are worthwhile. But I think that wraps it up for today. Any comments or questions, Peter?
Well, people want to work with you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Okay, the best way is my phone number. Whether you're looking for someone to work with or just maybe have a good conversation to clarify things, maybe you're discouraged or whatever, I'm happy to help you, no charge. Just give me a call, text me anytime at this number here, 425-333-8472. And if you're looking for someone to work with, that's a possibility too. So, again, write this down or memorize it, 425-333-8472. Speaking of memorize, I think the most important thing to memorize is my phone number. It's the 4 dimensions of love, the 4 C's: caring, connecting, committing, creating value. I think that's the most important thing if you want to have a better life. So just one more reminder of that. So, I wrote a book on it. I teach on this all the time because I think it's so foundational. So I can guarantee you two things. I guarantee that I can't help you if you don't call, obviously. And secondly, I guarantee that if we do have a conversation, it will be helpful. Maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. It's like, I've listened to a lot of people. I've had different coaches and mentors, and most people can be helpful. Sometimes you can learn an important lesson from your children. But the person that helped me the most was Jim Rohn, and secondly, Mike Smith. And so you want to connect to good people. Listen to these shows as often as you can. So anyway, one more time in case you weren't ready to write it down. My phone number is 425-333-8472. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you and this opening, this opportunity to share some ideas that I believe can make the world a better place. That's what we want. We want our own personal world to be a better place and the rest of our life to be the best of our life. And the better we do and the better we feel and the more healthy we are, it actually contributes, sometimes directly, more often indirectly, to making the world a better place, to some degree. So what's at stake is our life. One of my favorite verses in the Bible says, I've come that you might have life, and life more abundantly. That's what we already want. Someone has to sell you on that. We already want a better life. We just need to put time and focus and energy into what we need to do, identify what's missing, identify your core values, and be grateful, and that will tremendously move you in the right direction. Okay, that should cover it for today. Thank you, Peter.
Excellent. Well, thanks, everybody, for listening in. We're going to catch up next week. We're going to do the third I in the acronym FIRE. We'll see everybody next time.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Building Fortunes Radio is part of the Humongous AM and Humongous FM radio network. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website to listen to your favorite shows. You can also hear us on Humongous Radio and wherever you find your favorite podcasts. It's been our privilege to have you listen in. At Building Fortunes Radio, we wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work for.